Hi guys, it's Clarice and welcome to another Sunday of our live painting. Just give me 1 second. I'm just trying to make sure that I have my setup properly in place. And I'm just going to wait for you guys to kind of trickle in. Okay, let's just get started in my spiel while I'm waiting for you guys. This week was this tutorial that we did. It was a simple wreath with pansies created from using our angular brush, and it turned out quite nice. And I added some cute little gold details, which was kind of also very nice to it, like a nice addition to it. And these would make a great greeting card or even a wall kind of framed artwork if you want to send to family and loved ones. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I got some great reviews, some great comments regarding this. So I was quite pleased that you guys were pleased and you learned quite a bit. So the leaves and so the leaves were also created using the angular brush. So this was really fun, repetitive, and colorful to do. So once again, hope you guys like this and thanks for joining in. Today we're kind of going to piggyback off the same concept, being the wreath, and I'm going to focus on composition, on how to do a simple wreath. And let me just make sure I can see everyone's comments so we can interact if there are any questions and whatnot. Hi Lydia, hi Pamela, thanks for joining in. Yeah, so I think, let me just make sure my screen is properly fixed and placed so you guys can see. Okay, perfect. Great, awesome. So as I was saying, we're going to focus on composition today, and I am going to walk you guys through and what I think of when I am composing a wreath, and I'll try and keep it fairly simple. I've done a rough outline just so we can speed up the process and I'm not sitting here thinking. So to start off, because I wanted to keep this simple, I have two big blooms here, and I've already kind of placed in my leaf placement. And then from the big blooms, we're just gonna have tinier blossoms coming out from it. And I did say I wanted to kind of incorporate these pansies, and again, I don't know if I can or cannot. We'll just see as we go along. So to start off, I've told you about my placement, and as we kind of go along, I have my water, I have my paper towel. For brushes, I am using Silver Black Velvet 4, the Princeton number 8, and the mop brush in the 1. And I also have a number 9, just like a regular round brush handy as well. For colors, we're going to be using St. Petersburg, the yellow ochre. I will be mixing that in with the umber, I believe, also from St. Petersburg. And I'm also going to have on the side some of the yellowish green from St. Petersburg, and this is all to do the greenery involved in this. For the florals, we're going to be using a combination of the two reds that come with St. Petersburg White Nights, and that's the Madder Lake Red and then the English Red. And you'll see exactly how I'm trying to put these in, because I want to have some really light blooms and then some really dark blooms, so it gives you a nice contrast. And yeah, you know what? I'm also going to put in my favorite green just in case I don't get the green that I'm kind of looking for. And this green is called, I think it's just called green, yeah, from St. Petersburg. So leaving all of these aside here at the top. And I have this here. I'm just going to make sure this is clear. Perfect. No, not really. Before we begin, there we go. Okay, now we can start. Okay, so to start off, we're going to do the big blooms first. So if any of you have watched my tutorials, the roses tutorials, these are going to be very similar. So for my roses, I always kind of use the mop brush to smoothen things out in the end. And I start off in the center with the number 4. I see Third Eye Open has joined us. Hello all. Hello, welcome. So I'm using my number 4, and I'm just going to start off by using, I'll make this top floral a nice bright red. This will be the bright red floral. So let's go with this color, which is the English red. So I'm going to get my color directly out of my pan, and I'm going to get a nice potent dark color. I'm just going to dip some water at the tip of the brush to get it nice and going, and then I'm just going to start off by doing slight little waves, like C strokes or comma strokes around the floral that I have. And it's just like this, and I want to keep the center, white. And I'm just going to keep on going by doing these little strokes all around. I'm dipping the tip of my brush in water a little bit just to get some water on it. And now once I have that, I'm going to take my mop brush, dip it in water, and then I'm going to start doing the edges before it dries up. And I want it to flare out just like it is doing right now, because I want it to be a light to dark effect, and leaving white space in between and kind of just swishing your water around, which also kind of swishes the paint around. And then finally you want to do that to the center too, but make sure you don't have too much water in the center because you don't want it to be blotchy. And I'm just lightly kind of creating strokes to help this color that I've laid down move around. And as you can see, it's like super easy. You have a rose or a blossom of some kind. So just kind of keeping that, just making sure I have enough white space as well. So there's lots of dark shadow. And I just kind of wiped off water, and I'm just gonna slowly try and brush off any extra color that's kind of fading off to the end. And if you feel like it's doing something like that, just take your paper towel and dab, and then go back in with your brush and just water, and then just wipe it off again. And that's one way to kind of get things going. Now for the center, I want it to be a lot darker. So what I'm going to do is go back, get some of this red. I'm going to mix it with some of the other red, which is the Madder Lake red. And I'm going to add more in the center. And again, I'm doing the same strokes. It's C strokes. And I'm just highlighting tiny bits of the outer area as well. I can see a bunch of people have joined. Welcome, guys. Today we're focusing on doing composing a simple wreath, and we just have 2 big blooms. This is the first bloom I am tackling. Second one's going to be here. We're going to have an extension of smaller florals, and then our leaves, and then we're done. Okay, so playing off with this color that I have, you might choose to incorporate some purple in the center, or maybe even mix it with a little bit of black to get a darker center, and that's totally up to you if you want to do that. I'm just going to leave this as is. I don't want to incorporate too many colors or get it to be too dark. So I'll leave this as is for now, and I'm just going to end off by adding a tad bit of yellow just at the center, ever so lightly. I don't want it to blend way too much with this with the pink or the red, but just a hint of yellow. And then that's it. So I'll keep that yellow back to the side. I'm gonna go back for the color that I was using, and I believe I was using this one. And we're gonna take the same color again using number 4, and we're gonna go ahead and create this floral right here in pretty much the same manner, but this one's facing downward. And so I'm gonna create my little C strokes in this manner, just like haphazardly doing your little C strokes all around, but facing downward. And then taking your mop brush, getting off as much water as you can, and you're just smoothing out the edges first, because you want to make sure it doesn't dry off before you can get that nice smooth floral fade, I guess. And then just adding a little bit to the center as well. And make sure you're leaving white space, and then you can always go back in and add more of the same strokes, but like darker, so that it has a nice fade. If you want to add some at the edges, sure, why not? You might get some startling nice effects. And then just finishing off with just a few strokes at the edge this way, and that's it. Because I still have paint on here, let's just finish some of the other buds as well, and then we can kind of tie it in with some green. So for this one here, we're gonna have it just at the top, because this will be more of a closed bud. That's more of an open one. So again, it's C strokes going in a circular motion, and then going in with your mop and just pulling down with just water on it, kind of adding some water to kind of have it swish around to the bottom. And I always like to have the centers, or the edges of the centers, faded a bit. So I add a little bit of water there. There we go. And then these are smaller buds, so I'm just adding a tad bit of color and then putting some water on it to kind of give it that. You can also just kind of have it super light and just add a couple of strokes and just keep it as like background buds almost, if you will, if you don't want it to be as dark as the other ones. I think that's a good idea. And finally, we can go in for our green. So we're like finished half of this already. So for the green, I am going to be mixing some of the ochre with my, I'm always torn between the green that I love, which is the green, or the yellowish green, because I use it so little. But let's try it with some of the yellowish green. And I'm just gonna mix that on the side, which is going to be off the camera, but you'll see what that looks like soon enough. So I'm getting a green that's quite bright, and while I don't mind it, I'm just going to add a lot more ochre into it just so I can get like a nice olivey green, which will complement our red really nicely. So I have that, and you're going to see what that looks like right now. So I'm just going to add some to the tip of this bud and kind of have it go up. And then obviously back down here. And then for these edges, let's introduce the number 9, and let's get some of the dark green that I like. And we're going to add, okay, that has too much water. We're going to add some in the areas where they kind of intersect with either another sprig or a leaf. and then just add in your leaves. Now I'm going to do the leaves and show you exactly, for those struggling with leaves, how simply you can actually create these. So we have 3 leaves right here. And I'm going to use, for these leaves, I'm going to use the dark green that I have. So let's just start with that. So I have a decent amount of green onto my number 9, and I'm literally just going to start at the tip and then drag down. And then again, start at the tip here and drag down this way, and there you have your leaf. And you always want to put the color down at the bottom, collect it at the bottom, I mean. Again, I'm doing the same thing here. I took a tad more of the green to get it darker so it can kind of contrast against this one. And then again, I'm doing the other side, except I'm using the lighter green that I have to complete this leaf, just to create some sort of dynamic contrast. So again, I'm going to do one side the dark green. So let's just do that here. Starting from the tip, brushing down, and then the other half I'm going to use the light green that I have, starting from the tip and brushing down. And there we go. We have our leaves. And that's simplistic enough, right? And then we have these leaves right here. What I should have done was done these as soon as this one dried up. That's okay. We can do that for the other one happening down here. So let's actually, before we do these, let's do these over here. So I'm going to add a tad bit of green at the bottom of this floral, and then have it extend from the big floral we have going. I'm doing the rest of the stems here, adding the bottom of this one. And if you have some white space in between, I kind of encourage it because that's the kind of style we do, which is very loose. So even like with this leaf, I'll just kind of add 2 strokes, leave a little bit of white space, kind of leave it open-ended. And then remember, adding a bit of dark green in certain areas to kind of give it that duotone effect. And then finishing off with these leaves right here. So these big leaves, we're going to do the dark green. So again, I'm taking my number 9 and I'm going to do, so I did these from the tip down to the bottom. This one I'm going to start from the bottom down to the tip. So I'm literally just touching the stem, pressing down, and then trailing off. And I'm going to get some more. So touching down, pressing down, trailing off. And you have that nice, I like that effect because it's clearly giving it good texture, and you can get that if you don't have enough water on your brush. You can choose to leave the center white. I'm just adding a few strokes of the light green that I have. I like how that's turned out. And I'll just do this leaf also in the dark green. And I'm just gonna pull it from the stem and then just have it this way, touching a little bit of this green, which is also still damp. So it's kind of pulling in some color, and there's a little bit of blending happening. So that's nice. And let's just do these 2, and then we can move on to the other half. So keeping with the same color of green, I'm doing these big ones to be quite darker, starting from the top and trailing off to the bottom. Now these, I might not get it bang on to the edge of the flower, and that's okay. I'm just going to leave some white space in here. And I might just dip it ever so lightly into the ochre, not might, I did, I have. And I'll do this one here. And see, it's given me a different variation of the green, and I kind of like that nice light green, but it's got like hints of the darker green happening in it. There we go. And we have our leaves. So this side's done. Now we can do this side just as simply. So for this side, I'm just going to do a slightly lighter version of this flower, but let's see if that turns out lighter or not, because my florals always kind of end up being a lot darker. So we're doing the same thing. We are going to start off with a number 4, and we're using, or I'm using, Madder Lake. So I'm reversing the colors now. So I'm just getting some bright Madder Lake on here, and then I am just going to add it. This one was facing upward. This will be facing sideward. So I'll have to just kind of make my strokes kind of going around where the center is right here, as opposed to in the center of this floral that I've drawn. So adding my loose strokes, tiny in the center, and then I guess wider as you kind of go out. And these are really easy to do, guys. So I'm trying to keep this as easy and simple for those who don't have a lot of experience and really just want to create something pretty, whether it's a card, or a wall hanging, or what have you, because so many things you can do with your artwork. So then I'm going in with my Squirrel Mop brush, and I'm going to be taking advantage of the fact that it is still damp and adding some water all around. And timing for this is imperative. As you can see, some of it has dried up already, but that's okay, don't worry. I'll show you exactly what's gonna happen next. As I go lower, I'm gonna leave more white space in between my strokes, and you'll see why. Because what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna add a couple of strokes here and there. And then just adding and then you can just leave it and let it go. If there's too much pooling happening, just take your paper towel and dab lightly, and you're good to go. Sorry, I haven't checked comments yet because I need to attend to this as soon as the color is laid down. And once we've reached a point in this painting where I can kind of pause and look and focus my attention on somewhere else, I totally will look at your comments and answer any questions you might have. So I'm just going back in with my number 4, and I'm adding a couple of strokes to highlight certain areas so it doesn't look like one big blob, but it actually looks like a flower with folds. And if you feel like you've messed up anywhere, or it's not cauliflowering in the way you like, just kind of go in with your brush and swipe it off. But if you like the pattern, obviously just leave it in. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave that as is. I will just end off with one thing. I'm gonna go back into the English red, get a whole lot of color, and then I'm just gonna add it to the center of this rose. And what this is going to do is, it's just going to highlight or bring out a different red compared to the rest of the rose. So it gives it a little bit of depth and makes it prettier. Yeah. So yeah, so now that we have this one done, we can actually kind of go ahead and do all the smaller ones. Yes, this is the one that I was using, which is the English red. No, Madder Lake red, that's English red. So I'm going to take this and create this little bud here. And again, we're doing the same thing. We're kind of adding C strokes in the center, loosely, haphazardly, because this is the style. So once we've done a couple of those, go back in with your brush and just water on it, not too much though. You're just gonna add some more C strokes with just water. The key to these ones are making sure that you let go before you make the tiny bloom too massively huge, which you don't want to do. Sometimes I have problems doing that. And then again, in the center, just go in with your other red and add a couple of strokes in the darker red or in the variant of red that you have. And this way you have like a nice dark to light center. Okay, it's that easy. I'm just gonna mix some of that red on the side because we have some of the buds to do, just like we did here and here. And here's one, for instance. We're just gonna do very, very lightly in the same pattern as before, or manner as before. So again, there's a lot of repetition in this as well, guys. And again, to show you or give you maximum practice and create something that you love. So for this one, I'm just gonna end off with a couple of strokes outside. I don't wanna give it too much volume, and I'll leave that as is. And let's go on to the leaves for this, shall we? So for this one, I'm going to use my number 8 Neptune, and we're using the same sort of green, using the green I love for these big leaves to the side. And then we'll mix the ochre green for the stem and whatnot. So I have a bit of green mixed with water on here, and I'm going to start off with the tip and drag down and kind of end off that way. If you want a little bit of flair to your leaf, just kind of make the tip more prominent. What I will do for the second half of this is I'm just going to take my number 9, and with just water on it, I'm going to create the second half. Okay, this is clearly not as big as the other leaf brush, but what I wanted to do was have the color seep in and kind of almost blend in, which it's kind of doing, but it's not quite the effect that I want. So I'm just going to leave this as is for now. Let's just see how it dries up. I'm going to touch it up with some of the darker green. And let's see how it dries up. But there is one more leaf right here to do. And starting from the tip, pressing down, and then trailing off. So adding more to the tips, to the tip and the bottom, yes. And then same thing here, pressing down, trailing off, pushing the color to the tip and to the bottom of the leaf, leaving some white space in between, and then you have that nice light and dark kind of effect happening. And now we can move on to the ochre green that I was talking about for the stems. And I still have my green on the number 8. We'll use that again. So mixing some of the ochre with my previous green, which was the yellowish green here. Same thing that we did up here. Getting my number 4 to get my nice thin stems. So let's start off with this leaf here. And touching the tips so that there's prominent color there. And then pulling down or kind of drawing down from it. Creating another leaf here. And then just kind of creating another stem which will have another bud. which we will do shortly. Then we're doing another stem up here, and this time we want to make sure we get the darker green in on this action while it is still dark. Damp. So then we have a variant of green happening and it's not a flat green. So create another leaf here, barely touching that stem. You can always go back in with the other brush with the darker green if you find it too confusing to use the same brush. And then this way you have a nice dark to light effect. Just make sure the tips of the leaves or the bottoms of the leaves have that dark happening. And then finally add some over here too. And these can be like super light, less detail. Some of this rose is still damp, so you can see some of the green kind of seeping in, and that's nice. I like effects like that. Just kind of pulling that in and down. And I'm going to add some of the dark green on this side too. And then have it pull down over here as well. Then going down to the bottom. It doesn't have to connect, but this is just me. I can do some on this side as well. And what I'm going to do is have another big leaf coming out from here, I think, because I think it'll be good placement. And my whole idea is to have a good balance between red, green, bright, dark, that sort of thing. Because if we had a bright green and then this bright red, that wouldn't quite have a stunning effect, because then your eye would be jumping all over the place. But if you have dark and you have bright, it's a good balance, and that is what I'm trying to achieve here, so that you can see the difference and your eye flows. So I'm just going to create another leaf kind of coming from upward, and just with a tiny little swerve to it almost. Yeah, there we go. And then carrying on with our other tinier leaves, which is with the ochre and the bright green. Just mix some more. So just starting from the tip, pressing down, and then trailing off, touching the stem, making sure it meets the stem, and then I'm just going to add in my darker green here. And then here's another bud we have going on. So I'm just going to add a little bit of extra green there and a loose leaf here. And then what did I use for my red? Let's just use the number 9 that we have, since I'm not using it. And then I'm just going to get a light bit of the pink red that we used here, and I'm just adding it loosely here. Now it's touched some of the green and it's kind of seeping in, but it's also pooling a bit, which can happen. So just take your paper towel and then just wipe it off, and that helps, right? There we go. So just adding, again, too much water, sweeping it off with the brush this time, not the paper towel. And then I'm just going to take some of the red and add it on there, and that's good enough. Doesn't need to be super intense. But I think another effect that's also nice is if you take a brush just with water and touching the areas that are damp, you create leaves or other indications of, I guess, buds. It's like a nice effect. So let's do one here. So you can see what I mean by that. And I'm just gonna add a tad bit of the dark to the edges. And then I'm just going to use my brush with just water on it, and I'm going to add, okay, it clearly had a little bit of green. Add a leaf, and then adding another leaf and another one. But do you see how it adds almost like these are a lot lighter, so it looks like maybe it's in the background, and the ones that are darker are in the foreground. It's a nice effect. And it softens up the whole look and feel as well. So finally, we are finishing these leaves at the top. So again, starting with the tip, pressing down, trailing off. Starting with the tip, pressing down, trailing off. You can leave some white space in between if you wish. There's a lot of white space happening here anyway, so that's kind of nice. I would suggest doing that. It's the style. And then again, same thing here. Just push the dark color to the bottom of the leaf and to the tip of the leaf. And this way you're having a nice contrast. We have one more bud to do, which is right there. And so for that, I'm just gonna add a couple of quick dots around here, strokes. And then this time I'm washing it off right off the number 4. I don't want to use the mop brush because it'll take up too much, like it'll put down too much water. So with just water on this, I'm just going to create some of my little strokes. And you never need any additional color because you're getting color from the center, as you can see. And it's literally just comma strokes or C strokes that are happening right now to create this floral. And there we go, it's done. So I'm not going to add any more detail to this. I'll just leave that as is. I will add one thing. While this is still damp, and I'm just going to show you this effect because we missed it when we made the big florals. I feel like we should have done these leaves right away because then you have that nice soft blend with the blooms. But yeah, just taking in some of your green, you could create a leaf like this and have the red blend in with the green. And again, it creates for a nice effect. Or you could even do leaves that kind of start from the red. I'm just going to create another leaf here just to kind of offset that random one there, and just dab a slight bit so it's light. But what I was trying to do here is to create either a leaf or any kind of other foliage that might be in the background. So it could be buds, but it's like a slight hint as opposed to any of the dark painting that we've been doing. Do you see how it translates so lightly? That's the effect, what I was trying to go for. You could almost kind of do one here too, so I'm just going to add one here, and then I'll do that leaf that I was talking about over here. So just water on my brush. I'm creating a leaf that's right beside this one, and you don't see it now, but when it dries up you'll kind of see it a lot better, and it's literally just like a part of it but ghosted in the background, so to speak. Yeah, so this is it, guys. This is the whole idea on how to compose and how to do a simple wreath. So like I mentioned earlier in the beginning, I start off with my main areas for the bigger blooms and then kind of give it some direction and then kind of go with the flow with where the leaves should go based on these guys. So these guys first, then the main leaves, and then the little guys, and how you want to have them kind of trail off. So yeah, this is really simple, easy to do. If you're still struggling with the roses, I have several of my rose videos. You can check those out as well. They're actually a lot of fun to do, but as you can see, they're also very easy. It's just a matter of getting the centers and then spreading out the water around it. And yeah, so this is now ready. You can kind of brush letter some words in here or a name in here. Thank you. Like you could make this into a thank you card that you can print for yourselves, digitize the whole thing, print it out for yourselves, and then have a whole stack of cards that you can send out to friends or family as and when you need to send out a thank you note. So lots of great stuff you can do with your work instead of just kind of storing it in. Let me just quickly look at the comments to see if anyone had any questions. Hi Mary, nice to see you here. Not painted in a while because of the heat. Oh, I hear you. I'm sweating buckets right now. Thanks, Third Eye Open. Hi, Anita from UK. Thanks for joining. Hi, Pauline. Katrina. Hi, thanks, Katrina. Hi, Laura. Thanks, Pamela. Yeah, I'm glad you appreciate the whole composition bit. I feel like a lot of people have been asking about composition, and I kind of always paint on a whim and on the fly, so I figured let me talk about my thought process. Becky, yes, absolutely, please do rewatch it. It is a fun, cute tutorial, right? Yes, Third Eye Open, yes, that's exactly why I figured I'll do one of these. And thanks, I guess YouTube faves, it's Anita, yes. Thanks, Anita, I'm so glad that you like these roses. Roses are pretty much my favorite. I love painting them. They're just so soothing and calming to like even get on paper, and extremely satisfying when you actually see them come about. So I love it. Yeah, so anyway, so if you guys really like this whole composition idea, please let me know in the comments or description below. I would love to do more of these with you guys if composition is what you want to focus on. If there's other things you want to focus on outside of this, let me know in the comments, and I will do my best to kind of come up with some great content for you. Outside of that, yeah, I think that's it for today, Sunday. I tried to keep it short and sweet, and we are at 42 minutes. So if no one has any questions for me, I think I will bid you all adieu and have a wonderful Sunday. I'm just going to wait for a few seconds to see if anyone has any questions. Thanks, Pamela. Okay, awesome. I think everyone is good to go. Great. So, yeah, let me know if you end up doing this. Send me pictures on Facebook and Instagram. You have my links below. Love hearing from you guys, and I love seeing your work. So thanks guys for watching, and we'll chat soon. Bye.